The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.
This is The Checkpoints. I'm Elena Kontilashvili, author and the host of the show, and the Checkpoints team is ready to sum up Business and Economics Week for you. Mamukha Khazaradze and Badri Japaridze have lost the arbitration dispute over the Anaklia port project at the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes in Washington, the Georgian Ministry of Justice stated. According to the ministry, the ICSID tribunal fully upheld the Georgian government's position, confirming that the failure to implement the Anaklia port project was solely the responsibility of Khazaradze, Japaridze and their partners. The tribunal also found no evidence of interference by the Georgian government. According to the Georgian government, the tribunal fully accepted the legal arguments presented by the Ministry of Justice of Georgia and concluded that the obligation to finance the project rested solely with the investor who, for his own reasons, failed to secure the necessary funds. The commercial risk was borne entirely by the investor, and the government's termination of the contract was lawful, as the investor repeatedly missed deadlines to obtain financing for construction. It was proven that the state consistently supported the Anaklia project throughout the contract period. The legality of the criminal proceedings for money laundering against Mamukha Khazaradze and Badri Japaridze was not questioned, and the state did not obstruct the involvement of investors, including an American investment fund, in the Anaklia Development Consortium, the statement reads. The ministry also noted that Bob Meyer, a Dutch partner of Khazaradze and Japaridze, demanded $64 million in the arbitration, but had his claims fully rejected. Instead, he was ordered to pay $6.5 million to the Georgian government. This is the second legal defeat for the Anaklia Development Consortium. 1 year ago, the consortium also lost a separate arbitration case in Paris, where they sought $1.5 billion from the Georgian state. That tribunal dismissed all claims and ordered them to pay $650,000 to the government. Khazaradze and Japaridze did not appeal the decision and paid the imposed amount, effectively acknowledging that the failure of the Anaklia port project was due to their own actions. The statement reads. GD Prime Minister Kobakhidze has defended the Georgian government's stance in the Anaklia port dispute following the country's legal victory in Washington arbitration against Mamukha Khazaradze and Badri Japaridze. Speaking to journalists, Kobakhidze emphasized that the state was entirely right in its dealings with the Anaklia Development Consortium. We created every condition for the project's success. We even amended the constitution to support it, but they failed to attract a single investor, he said. Instead of securing funding, Kobakhidze claimed they initiated legal action against the state and attempted to misappropriate public money. A fair ruling was delivered. The arbitration tribunal reached a decision that fully reflects the reality. Kobakhidze noted, stressing that it was the consortium's failure that derailed a project of national importance. This was a logical outcome. They couldn't find an investor, abandoned the project, and then tried to blame the state, he concluded. Bob Meyer and the Supervisory Board of the Anaklia Development Consortium issued the following statements in the response to the award issued by the tribunal in arbitration case Bob Meyer versus Georgia. Meyer's claim was filed at the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes pursuant to the Agreement on Encouragement and Reciprocal Protection of Investments between Georgia and the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Meyer's claim sought to recover the value of his investment in the Anaklia Development Consortium following the government's January 2020 termination of its investment agreement with ADC to develop the Anaklia deepwater port. On July 30, 2025, the ICSID tribunal issued an award denying Meyer's claim. Specific details of the ruling and the arbitration proceedings are confidential. The outcome of the ICSID arbitration is disappointing, but it is important to understand that the tribunal only examined a narrow question: whether the government was within its rights under the Georgia-Netherlands bilateral investment treaty to terminate the investment agreement, I chose to invest in ADC and the Anaklia port because I saw the enormous potential for Georgia to establish a leading role in the regional economy and in global trade. Likewise, I have always maintained absolute trust in the integrity and vision of my fellow ADC investors and in our collective ability to develop this port project. If only the Georgian government would play a proper role in facilitating its development, Bob Mayer stated. While the ICSID ruling is unfortunate, it does not change the central fact that this government has completely failed in its long-promised commitment to develop Anaklia. Literally within weeks of terminating the investment agreement with ADC, the Georgian Dream government commenced 5 years of broken promises and empty rhetoric about its intention to build the Anaklia port. But here we are 5 years later and there is no signed agreement with any developer, much less actual construction. Bob Mayer stated, adding that had this government upheld its obligations and supported ADC, the Anaklia port would be operating today, providing thousands of jobs for Georgians, boosting our nation's economy and making Georgia a vital link in global commerce. Had it done so, this government would be seen as a respected leader on the world stage rather than as the pariah that it has become. ADC is a consortium which consists of Tbilisi Holding, Anaklia from Georgia, Vanord, PPP International of the Netherlands, British Wondernet Express working in Central Asia, Geostat Ltd from Bulgaria, Conti International from the US, and Bob Mayer. In July 2020, ADC filed a request for arbitration before the International Court of Arbitration of the International Chamber of Commerce, seeking to recover the value of their investment and rights in the Anaklia Deepwater Port project following the Georgian government's January 2020 termination of the investment agreement, which granted ADC the right to develop the Anaklia port project. That termination followed a sustained politically driven campaign to undermine ADC and its investors and to thwart ADC's efforts to develop the project in accordance with the investment agreement. ADC's ICC claim was denied in July 2024. Separately, Bob Mayer filed his own ICSID arbitration claim against Georgia, seeking his own relief for the losses he has suffered at Georgia's hands. In the arbitrations, ADC and Bob Mayer were represented by a legal team led by Andy Moody at Baker McKenzie in London and Ketevan Kvartskava at BLC in Tbilisi. The political party Lelo has also responded to the Ministry of Justice's statement regarding the Anaklia port case. According to Lelo, the government's claim that Mamuka Khazaradze and Badri Japaridze lost the arbitration case in Washington is false. The party clarifies that the dispute was not between Khazaradze Japaridze and the state, but between investor Bob Mayer and the Georgian state. The government is being dishonest by linking Mamuka Khazaradze and Badri Japaridze to this arbitration case. The dispute is solely between investor Bob Mayer and the state. Regardless of the arbitration's outcome, one fact remains unchanged. The government shut down the Anaklia project 6 years ago under Russian influence and has made no progress since, despite the original plan to receive the first ship in 2020. Further details will be outlined in the Anaklia Consortium statement, and the investors will share their own perspectives, the Lelo party stated. Business this week on to Natia Taktakishvili.
Iber Company Holding has announced plans to launch 2 major real estate projects in Georgia's Achara region in 2025. According to Levandia Samit, the head of the holding, the company will invest over $27 million in a new project in Gonia, with an official announcement scheduled for September 2025. In addition to Gonia project, the company is preparing to enter large-scale development in Batumi in partnership with strategic collaborators. The first phase of Batumi project, launching in the summer, involves an investment of $60 million with completion expected over 4 years. Further details will be announced during an official presentation later this year. We are approaching the Achara market with caution, due to high supply rate. That's why we are focused on delivering a distinctive consumer-focused product, Samitze said. Its subsidiary company Figures Development entered on the real estate market in early 2024 and is already nearing completion of the first flagship project at Politkovskaya Street in Tbilisi. Construction is on track with 70% completed. We are currently working on the facade and interior surfacing. The building will be delivered to residents by the end of the year, Samitze noted. The project features shared community spaces for work, fitness and social gathering. It was developed in collaboration with architectural firm Tashab, which played a critical role in navigating regulatory procedures. The activities of Iber company began with the fuel wholesale business in the 19th. It unites several successful companies from different fields now. In 2000, Iber company began to diversify its business activities and turned into orientation towards mastering different directions and segments. Currently, the holding subsidiaries cover industries such as winemaking, oil business, tourism, energy sector, and the real estate. Just 30 minutes drive from Tbilisi at 1,100 meters above the sea level, Kakha farm has transformed a former Soviet farm into a vibrant tourist destination. This space now attracts visitors from across Asia, including China, Japan and India. According to communications manager Liza Meparishvili, the farm offers 15 types of accommodations, including traditional Georgian Oda houses, wooden cottages and tree houses. Price for a standard room for two with breakfast start from 320 lari, while tourist packages with activities begin at 420 lari. Visitors can enjoy variety of experiences: horseback riding, yoga, khinkali making workshop, wine tasting and more. Tourism in Georgia sees signs of recovery in Q2 2025, but the slow start to the year is hard to ignore, says Elena Otarashvili, General Manager of Golden Tulip Design Tbilisi. Speaking on BMG TV, she emphasized that January and March was particularly difficult. The industry was in survival mode when some claim everything is fine, that hotels are full and only hosting European tourists. That's simply not true. We are all in one same boat. Otarashvili noted that the situation improved from April thanks to large events like the International Fencing Championship, Justin Timberlake's concert and MICE conference, which pushed hotel occupancy at Golden Tulip at around 80%. We want quality guests and full hotels. These events helped us bounce back, even allowing us to adjust pricing, she added. However, she acknowledged a shift in tourist demographics, with European travelers largely replaced by visitors from Asia and Eastern countries. Located in the heart of Tbilisi, Golden Tulip Design Tbilisi is a part of international Golden Tulip brand, known for combining local character with modern hospitality standards. If the investment opportunity in Nunisi came up today, it likely would not be considered, says Irma Daushvili, founder of Nunisi Hotel. In an interview with BMG, she points to the lack of basic infrastructure, roads, internet, gas as a major obstacle for developing regional resorts. In 90% of resort zones, the necessary infrastructure does not exist. This shouldn't be the state's responsibility, Daushvili explains. We got involved 23 years ago with useful enthusiasm, but today it would not seem profitable. Another challenge is low public and international awareness. Despite Georgia's rich natural healing resources, she says promotion is minimal and investors prefer ready-made developed opportunities. We were better known during the Soviet era. Today, rising awareness globally is too big a task for private business alone. It requires government support. Daushvili also criticized the lack of recognition in modern medicine for resort-based treatments like balneotherapy and phytotherapy, once widely respected. No research, no academic interest, no recommendations from doctors. Meanwhile, Europe is returning to the natural therapies. She calls for state involvement through subsidies, insurance coverage and marketing to revive interest and restore Georgia's resorts to their full potential. People have forgotten that healing and rest can happen at resorts. It's time to remind them with help from the state, Daushvili said. As mortgage interest loan rates climb, more Georgian home buyers are turning to internal installment plans offered directly by the developer, says Beso Ortoidze, director of RC. Despite a 13% drop in new mortgage loans in the first half of 2025, real estate transactions have not declined. Ortoidze attributes this to the growing use of developer financing and business using personal savings. We warn that while internal installments are helping maintain sales, they are not sustainable long-term for developers who prefer sales backed by bank financing. If mortgage lending continues to drop, it could pose challenge for the market in the second half of the year, Ortoidze said. Ortoidze also expressed hope that interest rate on mortgage loans will decrease, making them more attractive option for buyers and supporting healthier long-term dynamics in the real estate market. The popular restaurant and wine cellar Trebalus Marani in Racha has expanded, opening a new hall with a bar and refreshed interior design in collaboration with Dodo Design. The space can now accommodate up to 200 guests, making it suitable for weddings, celebrations, and large events. We have added a new hall with unique interior and bar after renovation delays. We are now ready to welcome guests, said co-founder of Salome Lekishvili. The restaurant continues to employ local staff with a core team of 15-year-old employees and more hired seasonally. Since the second half of July, the venue has seen an increase in international tourists, particularly from Germany, England, Asia, and post-Soviet countries. In total, over 1 million lari has been invested in the facility since opening. Trebalus Marani launched in 2022 with an initial investment of 400,000 lari. It also produces 7 types of wines and chacha, which have been exported to the USA and Baltic states since 2021. Gelato, a Georgian brand offering authentic Italian ice cream, has grown steadily since launching its first branch in 2020 during the pandemic. Despite early challenges, the company now operates several locations across Georgia, delivering a sweet adventure with every scoop. Founded by Mariam Uchaneishvili, Gelato is built on Italian traditions, from important ingredients and machinery to collaborations with Italian chefs. The brand offers over 30 rotating flavors, most of which are gluten-free, including dairy and vegan options. When I see the sparkle of joy in a customer's eyes after tasting our ice cream, I knew my idea is becoming a reality, Uchaneishvili said. Beyond gelato, the menu features Belgian waffles, Italian bubble tea, and a selection of hot and cold drinks. Launching during a global crisis was not easy, but with the support of Tbilisi business, Gelato was able to grow and maintain financial stability. Tbilisi's support has been essential. They have helped us turn ideas into reality and continue to stand by us as we plan to expand and increase production, Uchaneishvili said. A new urban-style restaurant, Veshapi, has recently opened its doors in Tbilisi Saburtalo district, offering guests a cozy neighborhood dining experience. Located on Mindeli Street, the restaurant has been welcoming customers for just over a month and a half and is already becoming a local favorite. The menu, created by Chef Vakhtang Tevdariani, blends Georgian and European cuisine, aiming to deliver both flavor and comfort in every dish. Veshapi is built around the concept of local cafe restaurant, a calm, welcoming place for business meetings during the day and relaxed dinners with friends or family in the evening, said Georgi Bataraya, the head of strategic development, in an interview with BMDG. The restaurant can accommodate up to 80 guests, and despite limited marketing, it already enjoys a growing base of loyal customers, currently employing 15 staff members. Veshapi team plans to expand in 2026 with new branches planned in similar Saburtalo district, counting their mission of servicing local with high-quality neighborhood-driven hospitality.
The estimated real gross domestic product growth rate amounted to 6.3% for June 2025 compared to previous year, and the average real GDP growth for January-June 2025 equaled 8.3% according to the National Statistics Office of Georgia, Geostat. As of the document in June 2025, compared to the same period of the previous year, the estimated real growth in following activities contributed significantly: information and communication, manufacturing, financial and insurance activities, transportation and storage, and trade. Decline was registered in the construction and energy sectors. According to the National Statistics Service, in June 2025, the turnover of the Georgian private sector or VAT-paying enterprises amounted to 14.8 billion lari, which was 8.7% more than in the same period of the previous year. For comparison, this figure was lower than in May, since the increase in VAT turnover in May was 13%. During 2025, the growth rate of VAT turnover was highest in January, 14.7% and 13% in May, and the lowest in February, 8.7%, and June, 8.7% likewise. The exact figures for June turnover by specific sectors are not yet public, although increases are recorded in the IT sector, manufacturing, the financial sector, logistics, and trade. In the first half of 2025, Georgia state budget received 10.5 billion lari in tax revenues, achieving 100.5% of the overall tax plan. However, beneath the surface, revenue from most major taxes, excluding income tax and other taxes, fell short of projections, resulting in a 217 million lari shortfall compared to the 6-month plan. Breakdown of tax revenue performance: January-June 2025, value-added tax VAT 3.76 billion lari, 48 million lari below the target. Profit tax 1.44 billion lari, 97 million lari below target. Excise tax 1.18 billion lari, 68 million lari below target. Import tax 69 million lari, 4 million lari below target. Income tax 3.71 billion lari, 59 million above target. And other taxes 361 million lari, 211 million lari above target. According to the Ministry of Finance, the sharp increase under other taxes is partly due to the accounting method. Revenues under this category are recorded up to the 15th of the following month as companies finalize their tax declarations. Interestingly, the shortfall in key tax revenues comes despite stronger than expected economic growth. The 2025 state budget was based on an annual growth forecast of 6%, while actual economic growth in the first half of the year reached 8.3%, exceeding the forecast by 2.3 percentage points. This discrepancy is notable given that VAT, one of the underperforming taxes, is closely tied to real economic activity. For comparison, in the first half of 2024, the budget outperformed projections by 5.5%, collecting 9.9 billion lari in tax revenues in 2025. However, despite higher economic growth, there is no similar surplus, and several core tax categories are underperforming. The figures suggest potential inefficiencies in tax collection or structural changes in the economy affecting taxable activity. The ministry has not yet provided a detailed explanation for the lag in major tax categories. On July 30, 2025, the Monetary Policy Committee of the National Bank of Georgia decided to keep the monetary policy rate, refinancing rate, unchanged. The monetary policy rate stands at 8%. As of June 2025, the overall price level in Georgia increased by 4% year-on-year. The moderate increase in inflation compared to the target level of 3% is mainly driven by rising food prices. This partly reflects developments in international food markets and the base effect from last year's low inflation. Notably, inflation expectations remain stable. Service sector inflation, which tends to be stickier and reflects long-term inflation expectations, remained below the 3% target stood at 2.3%. Core inflation has also remained below the target level for nearly 2 years. In parallel, prices for important products are deflationary, mainly driven by reduced fuel prices year over year. According to the NBG's central scenario, consistent with the previous quarter's forecast, inflation in 2025 is expected to temporarily exceed the 3% target, averaging around 3.8%. This outlook largely reflects international developments and base effects from the previous year. Over the medium term, it is expected to stabilize around the 3% target. Economic activity remains robust. According to the preliminary data, average economic growth for the first 5 months of the year stood at 8.8%. This performance is largely supported by the enhanced productive capacity of the economy, which helps mitigate inflationary pressures stemming from excess aggregate demand. Given the gradual normalization of fundamental factors alongside strong growth in the first 5 months, the NBG's central scenario has revised the 2025 growth forecast upward from 6.7% to 7.4%. Global economic uncertainty remains elevated in the light of ongoing geopolitical tensions. As a result, inflation is subject to considerable risks on both the upside and downside. Accordingly, the Monetary Policy Committee considered both high inflation and low inflation risk scenarios. On the one hand, the U.S. tariff policy has been revised several times, the re-escalation of which could significantly exacerbate fragmentation in the global economy. This would lead to disruptions in global supply chains, which would create a stagflationary environment. Similarly, intensified geopolitical tension in the Middle East would elevate regional risk and increase pressure on global oil markets, adding to supply-side inflationary pressures. At the same time, trends in the local economy are noteworthy, in particular inflationary pressures stemming from strong aggregate demand. The realization of these risks require a higher interest rate path compared to the central scenario, according to the NBG. On the other hand, the Monetary Policy Committee considered a low inflation risk scenario where the realization of the risks would shape the development of fundamental factors in a way that requires a lower trajectory of the monetary policy rate compared to the central scenario. In particular, against the background of structural changes in the economy, productivity remains at a relatively high level. NBG says the scenario also assumes a globally weakened US dollar index and the rapid normalization of international food commodity prices. If these tendencies persist, NBG says a strengthened exchange rate combined with stable international food commodity prices is expected to exert downward pressure on headline inflation through lower imported inflation. As a result of macroeconomic analysis and the assessment of existing risks, the Monetary Policy Committee has considered it optimal to adopt a cautious approach toward further normalizing the monetary policy rate, keeping it unchanged at 8%. Upcoming decisions on the monetary policy rate will depend on updated macroeconomic forecast scenarios and risk assessments, NBG says. The NBG will use all available instruments to maintain price stability. It says that this means keeping the overall price level increase close to the 3% target over the medium term. The next meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee will be held on September 10, 2025. Economy this week in our short overview.
Tbilisi City Hall has unveiled a new initiative to support micro and small businesses with annual turnover under 500,000 lari. Mayor Kakha Kaladze announced the program will provide co-financing of up to 20,000 lari to help entrepreneurs purchase equipment, enhance production and boost competitiveness. This initiative will create new opportunities for businesses that previously lacked resources to grow, Kaladze said. The co-financing terms are as follows. In the case of up to 5,000 lari, City Hall covers 90%. In the case of 20,000 lari, City Hall covers 85%. Priority will be given to businesses with clear plans to improve production quality, increase output, or launch new product line. Applications are open for 15 days starting today. More details are available on Tbilisi City Hall website. The Roads Department of Georgia's Ministry of Infrastructure has announced a new infrastructure project to enhance transport links between Tsketa, Shidakartli and Kobakhidze. According to official information, the project includes rehabilitation of 2.9-kilometer section of Ksani-Saskhori Road and building a 389-meter bridge over the Mtkwari River for 20 million lari, fully funded by the state. This initiative will establish the shortest road connecting Kobakhidze, Shidakartli and Tsketa-Mtianeti via Tbilisi-Titgori corridor, easing traffic and reducing congestion on the east-west highway near Tbilisi. The Roads Department also explains that this project will support the development of Ksani, a key industrial village, by providing an alternative route to the existing Kanda-Ksani road, improving mobility and fostering local entrepreneurship. 5,424 permissions were granted in January-June of 2025, 3% less compared to the previous year, for construction of building with a total area of 5,000 square meters, 3.8% less compared to the previous year, according to the officially declared data from the National Statistics Office of Georgia. About 3/4 of all the permits have been issued in 4 regions of the country, namely 46% in Tbilisi, 12% in Kobakhidze region, 8% in Kakha region and 6% in Tsketa-Mtianeti region. It should be noted that January-June of 2025 permissions were issued for construction of multifunctional residential complexes, trade facilities, hotels, industrial enterprises, objects for agriculture purposes and other buildings. 1,540 objects with total area of 1,600 square meters were completed in January-June of 2025. More than 2/3 of the completed constructions are distributed among 4 regions of the country, namely 35% is located in Tbilisi, 12% in Tsketa-Mtianeti region, 11% in Kakha region and 8% in Kobakhidze region. Georgia's Minister of Economy Mariam Kurumishvili met with Turkey's Transport Minister Abdulkadir Uraloglu to discuss boosting cooperation in trade, transport, logistics, tourism and civil aviation. Turkey remains Georgia's top trading partner and investor. They focus on developing Georgia's transit corridor roads through projects like railway modernization, East-West Highway, Anaklia Port and Baku-Tbilisi-Kars Railway. Aviation links are growing with over 615,000 passengers traveling between the countries in the first half of 2025. The ministers emphasized the importance of Middle Corridor for regional trade and invited Turkish officials to the Silk Road Forum in Tbilisi this October. In the second quarter of 2025, Georgia welcomed 1.8 million international non-resident travelers, a 6.9% increase from the previous year, according to Geostat. Most visitors, 44.2%, were aged between 31 and 15. International visitors totaled 1.4 million, 8.1% up, with 1.3 million tourist visits. Tourists made up to 80.1% of visitors, excursions 15.8%, and company tourists same-day visitors 4.2%. The largest visitor group came from Russia, which amounted to 22.4%, Turkey 70.6%, Armenia 10.8%. Nearly half of the visits were for holidays and leisure. Tbilisi and Ajara received the most visitors. Average stay lengths increased to 5.3 nights, with 78.1% repeat visits. Total visitors spending grew slightly by 0.6% to 3.5 billion lari, while average expenditure per visit dropped by 6% to 2,116 lari. Tourist expenditure specifically contributed a significant share of this spending, reflecting the strong economic impact of leisure travelers. Georgia has seen a noticeable increase in blueberry exports during the first half of 2025, according to official trade data. In the first 6 months of the year, Georgia earned
30.2 million USD from blueberry exports, an 11.1% increase compared to the same period in 2024. According to Geostat, export volume reached 4,392 tons, up from 3,953 tons in the first half of last year, when revenue totaled to 23.5 million USD. Russia remains the leading buyer of Georgian blueberries. In the first half of 2025, 4,077 tons were exported to Russia, generating 27.9 million USD, which accounts for 93% of total exports, followed by Poland, Armenia, Netherlands, and Germany. While exporters continue to grow, Georgia also imports a small amount of blueberries. In the first half of 2025, the country imported 51 tons of blueberries worth 621,000 USD, a 13.3% increase compared to the same period in 2024, when imports totaled to 45 tons worth 461,000 USD. The Netherlands is the main source of imports, supplying 47 tons valued at 615,000 USD.
The ruling party Georgian Dream has officially nominated Kakha Kaladze as its candidate for Tbilisi mayor in the upcoming local self-government elections scheduled for October 4. The announcement was made during a special event held at Tbilisi Park, where Prime Minister Kobakhidze presented Kaladze as the party's official choice. The event was also attended by Georgian Dream's honorary chairman Bidzina Ivanishvili. Today, we could have nominated just a good politician, an experienced administrator, or a committed patriot, but instead we are nominating a true champion in both the literal and figurative sense of the word, said Kobakhidze. Kaladze, who is seeking a third consecutive term as mayor, was first elected in 2017 and re-elected in 2021. At a campaign event held in Tbilisi Park, Tbilisi Mayor Kakha Kaladze, nominated for a third term by Georgian Dream, officially launched his re-election campaign, unveiling the party's new slogan, "Peace to Georgia, more goodness to Tbilisi." Kaladze reflected on the past 8 years of governing the capital and contrasted today's Tbilisi with the city he inherited in 2017. Today, Tbilisi and each of its districts is much more vibrant than it was 8 years ago. Kaladze told supporters, "When I first ran for mayor, our slogan was a city full of life. Back then, I saw empty parks, deserted courtyards, and lifeless squares. Today, people are enjoying public spaces again, whether in certain neighborhoods or the suburbs." According to Kaladze, the transformation of public spaces has brought the city closer to the vision he presented in his first campaign, and the focus now must shift to preserving peace and building on the progress made. "Our main promise today is peace to Georgia, more goodness to Tbilisi. In a world full of uncertainty, our capital and our country are like an island of peace. That peace gives us the chance to do more good for families, for neighborhoods, for the future of our city," he says. Kaladze emphasized that peace is a precondition for development, crediting the governing party for maintaining stability in the country. "It is thanks to the policy of Georgian Dream, Democratic Georgia, that we have peace. I would like to express special gratitude to our honorable chairman, Mr. Bidzina Ivanishvili," Kaladze noted. The event, held in the symbolic location of Tbilisi Park, was attended by senior party members, supporters, and Bidzina Ivanishvili himself. Kaladze's nomination marks his third bid for the mayor of Georgia's capital. The Western world has already sanctioned more than 230 representatives of the Georgian Dream, of whom 138 have been named publicly, while the rest have been subject to anonymous visa entry restrictions, according to the report published by TI Georgia. According to the document, a full list of these individuals includes members of the illegitimate government and parliament, high-ranking officials of the law enforcement and security systems, Georgian Dream members and associates, judges, prosecutors, and police officers, municipal leaders, business leaders, propagandists, and family members of these individuals. Democratic countries have imposed sanctions on these individuals for various reasons, including brutally cracking down on peaceful protesters, undermining democracy, stalling Georgia's European integration process, advancing Russian interests in Georgia, rigging elections, corruption propaganda, and going against the will of the Georgian people. Since spring 2024, several countries have imposed anonymous anonymous visa entry bans on Georgian Dream representatives affecting more than 200 individuals. The United States has imposed visa restrictions on more than 110 individuals, including members of the Georgian Dream Party, members of parliament, senior government and municipal figures, law enforcement and security officials, corrupt business leaders, propaganda actors, some private citizens and family members of all these individuals. The names of these individuals are not made public due to visa confidentiality laws. However, for each of these individuals, their immediate family members are also under visa restrictions, meaning that the actual number of affected individuals is several hundreds. Germany has imposed anonymous entry bans on 13 Georgian citizens, primarily responsible for the violence against protesters and opposition members. However, a local media organization has stated that it had obtained the names of the initial 9 sanctioned persons from a reliable source. Latvia has imposed anonymous entry bans on 84 Georgian citizens. Poland has imposed anonymous entry bans on 8 representatives of Georgian law enforcement authorities responsible for the violence against protesters. And that's all for today. We will meet in September, already in the next season. But before that, you know what to do. Stay tuned to BMG. We will be working for you for the whole summer. It's worth it.
The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.